A big thank you to our sponsor, iFixit, who fights for your right to repair and makes really cool tools in the process. If you need to fix your phone, laptop, or even a vacuum, iFixit has thousands of parts, tools, and free guides.
Mercury, Mercury Stardust. She's a beacon of hope in the darkest night. Mercury, Mercury Stardust. She'll teach you how to make it all alright.
Hey there, hi, my name is Mercury, and I'm the trans handyman. My pronouns are she, her, and I teach compassionate DIY. We're here to help renters, LGBTQIA members, and anyone who's feeling left out in the DIY space. Hey everybody, my name is Mercury Starbutt. I am the host of the Handyman Hotline. I'm not here this week. I am taking a break. We're filming this. We're recording this weeks in advance because I hopefully hit $1 million for trans healthcare by trans people for trans people, and I was on a 30-hour live stream, maybe more, and I need to take a break. So I'm going to take this week off. But here's the thing. We do a patron-only podcast after show, pre-show, which is very confusing, but it's confusing for us too, every single week. So after the regular podcast is done, about another 45 minutes of the podcast is played, and it's typically me, Maggie, talking about the world, life, financial struggles, business struggles. Sometimes they're goofy stuff. Sometimes they're really serious stuff. But it's just me, Maggie, talking, and Matthew too. So we're going to play some of the best stuff for that. So without further ado, please put your hands together for the Best of Handyman Hotline podcast. Ah, yeah! Explosions. Okay, bye-bye. Mercury Starbutt. Dip a hope dip do. Dip doop doop doop. Cover me in butter, all right. Hey guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Thank you for tuning in. I am joined with my co-host, Maggie Conrad.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Woo. Yeah, Maggie, you're awesome. Oh my God. Wow. Oh my God, Maggie, you're amazing. Oh my God. Yeah! Oh my God, Maggie, you're amazing! Woo, woo! Woo, woo! Woo, woo! Woo! Yeah, Maggie! Wow! Maggie! Sugar, yeah! Woo, 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 woo! Woof, woof, woof!
Testing.
I don't know why whenever I get headphones on me and a microphone in front of me, I'm always like...
It's really weird to hear you like so close in my ear.
I do it.
I can see you standing right there.
Hey, thank you for coming to Mercury.
I should do like some ASMR whispering.
Yeah, I'm really happy. No,
some like nails.
the hold on, wait, okay, this thing.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
We've both watched way too many live streams on TikTok. There's that one person that they have the longest nails, and they just like caress the microphone, and they're just like, yeah, thank you for coming. Yeah, you're doing you're so good.
Why does it feel sexual?
I don't know why, but it always feels like it's aftercare, you know? Like, it always feels like they, like, beat me with a stick, and then they're just like, you do good girl. You did such a good job. It's so funny. I don't know why. But every time, it's like, oh, thank you, I'm a good girl.
I feel like we should, like, record these few minutes beforehand and put that on Patreon.
This should definitely go on Patreon.
For the subscribers.
All the subscribers are like, yeah, this is what I paid for.
Yeah.
After hours Mercury. Not safe for work Mercury. This is Mercury the fart cast. Oh, thank God I ate all those beans last night.
Oh, man.
Beans. The more you eat, the more you toot. Toot, toot.
Beans.
I don't know how that goes.
Musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. The more you toot, the better you feel. So eat your beans at every meal.
Maggie, have you ever realized how unearthly hip we are? We're so hip.
I had all of the friends in high school.
Yeah, no, I was really cool.
Yeah, me too.
You know, like I remember
Yeah.
one time I wore women's pants and I got made fun of so bad. Like, I remember, like, no one's going to know. Who's going to know? Like that TikTok song. Who's going to know?
No one's gonna know.
No one's going to know. They're going to know.
They
And
knew.
They knew. They knew. And they made fun of me so hard. It was these 3 girls that were literally 2 grades below me. I was like a junior. They were freshmen. And I got roasted so hard. We were at Subway because Subway was like right down the street from our high school. So we could just have Subway for lunch most of the time. We could go off campus. And I was in line ordering a chicken teriyaki, like I do. If you ever want to just buy me one and send it to
Fancy
our
pants.
office, you can. Buy me a Subway gift card. But all that being said, I was in line, and then 3 girls behind me were they were like pointing at me and laughing and snickering. And I remember being like, never again. And that was the first and last time I experimenting with any type of expression outside of the norm for probably like 15, 17 years.
Man.
Yeah, it's really fucking weird how those things will stay with you. And you don't really realize why they're staying with you. And then, like, years later, like an iceberg of knowledge of yourself kind of gets unearthed. And you're like, oh, trauma.
Yeah.
I didn't know oranges could go bad. I don't know if Maggie ever heard that story.
No.
No, I used to live, when me and Matt lived together at one point in time, I put oranges when I moved into the cabinet above the fridge. And when I moved out 4 months later, they were still there. And I didn't know oranges went bad. I grew up on a farm, Maggie. I grew up on a farm. I feel like I should know when produce goes bad. But for whatever reason, I was just like, I'm just lucky to be alive. And I went to the cabinet to get myself an orange, and all that came out was just a dust of orange.
Oh yeah,
it was like it was the moldiest thing ever. It was just orange pores. Oh, it was bad. It was like a fairy. It was like a fairy godmother that just vanished. You know what I mean? But instead of like giving a pumpkin and a bunch of mice to take you to a Cinderella story, I just got mold, and ever since then I cough like I have painter's lung. You know? Oh. And Matt came out of his room right when it happened, and he was like, "What happened?" And I was like, "I don't know. Did the orange go bad?" Oh boy, I was looking through TikTok not that long ago, and someone was talking about those 1981 souvenir cups you can get from McDonald's. McDonald's would make those glass cups from like the late 70s until the mid 80s, and they were talking about them and like pulling them out and then showing them in like limited edition, and they were saying, yeah, this has lead poisoning in it. It has a very high amount of lead poisoning in them. And then I looked at all of them, and I realized I had nearly half of them.
Oh, my God.
This is true. I have a bunch.
Yeah.
The reason why I collected them was because when I was growing up, I was only allowed to drink them on Sunday. So Sunday was, I could drink, my only soda of the week was a root beer, and I could get chicken from our local diner. And we would get chicken every Sunday for lunch and root beer, and I could drink out of that nice fancy cup. And I would get like 3 cups a year. And into my adulthood, I would see them at antique stores and go, oh, my childhood. But I've been collecting poison.
Oh, no.
And they have like very high amounts of lead poisoning.
Oh, shit.
Very high amounts. Like, I'm amazed the things that did not kill us in the 80s. Yeah. No, everything has my name on it, and I hate it. It's like
That's true.
Sometimes I hate that we named the business Mercury Stardust Media.
Aww.
Because it's so like, ugh, it makes me like roll my eyes every time I see. Yeah, I like it. It's cool, because my name is
And
I mean, that's cool. But
Yeah.
like, once now it's all worn off. Now I'm like, sometimes I look at it and go, oh god, I sound like an asshole. It's so much.
Well, I mean, we could always change the name
But
down the line, and
just imagine if everything was Maggie Conrad. What if it was?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that
just
would be really weird.
you're
'cause
staring.
Maggie Conrad is not a fun name.
You're staring back at it all the time.
Yeah, that's
Do you know what I mean?
true.
Like you're like signing something, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, Maggie Conrad Productions. Oh, that's great." You know what I mean? Like it starts like
Yeah.
it takes on different meanings.
Well, we can always you know how we have the DBA for 5-Star Teas and Mercury Stardust under the umbrella of the LLC. We could always create another DBA
How
and then always use that.
How about
name.
we're called the Tease Factory?
No, that sounds like another porno one. That's why I started recording this, because you were making up porno names. Here you are again.
I'm partial to Tease Factory. I think that is a great. I can't believe I've never thought of that for like a burlesque show.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this. I've done like 800 performances, 15 years, and I just now thought of the Tease Factory. That's amazing. That is such a
Right
good,
at the end.
right on the end. And then you find out it has salt in it, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?" You know. By the way, don't put salt in your cookie. I think that's a terrible idea.
A little bit of salt on top of your cookie.
A little
is really
bit.
good.
Wait,
a little
what?
Bit of,
What?
A little bit of kosher salt
Whoa,
on your cookie while it's still warm.
I
Oh,
feel like I just got
so
double
good.
teamed by Matt and Maggie. They were both like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! You absolutely can put salt on a cookie."
Yeah.
Well, way to shoot my
Not
analogy.
too much, though. You're right. You don't want too much salt.
Way to put my fuck.
You don't want to overpower.
Way to put shoot me right in the foot with my analogy, Maggie. I was like doing a really good time. It was a great analogy. People were learning a lot about content creating, and then Mercury just learned that cookies gonna have salt on it.
Yeah.
Apparently, you gotta admit though, my number on Friday was the sound. I mean,
It was very good.
I was like pretty
Now I know
mad.
why you were mad at me for distracting you while you were working on that.
I was like working on the sound, and it was like voice is like the stuff with my dad and the stuff with like me being on TV and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're standing there asking me all these questions while I'm in my office, obviously working on something. The problem is so much of my job is on my phone,
Yeah.
and
You can't tell when it's work or
I
not.
think a lot of people I'm very rarely doing not work on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I am always checking. I'm always communicating. I'm always emailing. I'm always messaging. I'm always doing something. Now that this show is over, it's going to be a lot easier. But like, I was on my phone working or even editing video. I do editing videos all the time.
Yeah.
And I edited videos and I give up on them constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I think 25 to 30% of all the videos I ever shoot, I never release easily.
That's a lot. I knew it was some. I didn't realize it was that
Oh,
much.
Maggie, if we're ever like low,
Yeah.
just go back through my phones and look at all my drafts. Tons.
Okay.
I am like, the only thing is I don't like them. I get mad
Yeah.
and I'm like, I fucked this up. I fucked this up. I don't like that.
Aw.
Maggie, it is crazy how many times I fail. And the ones I get out there,
Yeah.
they do, the ones, if they fail out there, I get even more mad.
Oh,
Because
jeez.
I'm like, Jesus
You're
fucking
so hard
Christ.
on yourself.
Yeah, but I mean, it's tough because like if I don't think I can keep watching the video, then I don't think it's going to do well on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
The snug plug video, I knew it was a home run. Like,
Did you?
oh fuck yeah! I was like sleep. It was the jury, the luring skulls effect. You know, she told us when we had our meeting with her
Yeah.
online that the best video she's ever done is when she's sleep deprived. And here I am. I'm like 22, 23 hours into sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And I'm in makeup. I've been in makeup for 10 hours. I'm doing all this stuff to try to get ready for the show and do, film stuff and
Yeah.
working on the studio. I'm just like fucking tired as hell. And it's like 8 o'clock in the morning. I had been here at the fucking studio for almost a full 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, we can film this real quick. And then I as I was filming it, I was like, oh man, this is
it.
home run. This is a fucking home run. And there we go, 2 million views. Home run.
Yeah, that's funny. Now knowing that about Jory, now that I watch, I think TikTok knew that we had a meeting with her because I've seen her like literally like every other video on my time.
I
my
think it's
feed.
hilarious because
And-
every time I watch her now, I always think, oh, she looks tired.
Yeah, now I can see. I was like, oh yeah, see that. See
Oh
what
yeah,
she's
she
saying.
looks like she hasn't slept for 30 hours. That's hilarious. Every time I see a video go viral, I'm always just like, how many hours of sleep does she have? She's so funny. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with everything. Is that
Yeah.
like I think that that video did really well because of you just you when you're that tired, you gotta really think through what you want to do. You gotta
Mm-hmm.
simplify. I overthink shit all the fucking time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think that sometimes the best videos is just not overthinking it.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple, keeping it straightforward. I saw a lot of videos recently where content creators were talking about like, you know, how you don't want to make it look fancy. You don't want to do a lot of editing. You don't want to do a lot of lighting.
Mm.
And I agree with that, but I also disagree with that because like I think that it depends on your niche, and I think people really
Yeah.
need to remember that is that if you got found because you did lighting and editing and
Mhm.
whatever, if people started following you because your videos looked a certain way and you
Yep.
did a certain thing and you're talking a certain way, then that's what you need to do to replicate that success.
Mhm.
Right? You need to remember that because if you are like Hank Green and you're just sitting in a chair and having a good
Yeah.
time the entire time, well, then the audience knows what to expect.
Yeah.
They're making a snap decision. They're not only making a snap decision on Hank, they're making a snap decision on like, oh, this looks familiar
Mhm.
to a video that brought me comfort.
Yeah.
But anyways, like that's what they find with Hank Green. You know what videos don't do good with Hank Green? When Hank Green is outside
Mm.
or
Because they're not used to
when
him
he's
being.
wearing a t-shirt.
Yep.
I've like thought about this a lot with him.
That's so funny. Yeah, because he's always wearing the hoodie. You're
Yeah.
right.
Always the hoodie. Because there's a comfort that comes with it.
Yeah.
There's a comfort.
It just
That's why
feels
the videos
familiar.
that do the best for me are almost always in my overalls with flannels with an LED background.
Yeah.
Almost always with the tools.
That's true. Yeah.
Uh huh. That's why I spent
This is
hours.
why you're so good at what you do. Like the things that you think about all the way through. I know you overthink things, but you also do think about things like that grab your audience and that, create that feeling of warmth, of familiarity. And
There's two locations that will work for me that I have found, and you can change it up. You don't need to keep it stagnant. But if you're looking for, success at a high level, which is
Mhm.
sometimes what we need as content creators if we're trying to do brand deals and etc., I think it's important to know what works, right?
Mhm.
And I think going back to the drawing board and really analyzing your top 10 videos
Yeah.
and really seeing what did well. And remember, it isn't always the content.
Right.
Your content could be mediocre and your words that you're saying could be mediocre. But if something about the video brought them comfort,
Mhm.
it's comfort food.
Yeah.
That's what that is. And I know I'm comfort food. It's not people who don't watch my videos to learn all the time.
Yeah.
They watch
that's
my
true.
videos to feel a little bit better about their life. You know what I mean? I think it would be asinine to think that the only thing we're selling is knowledge. We're not. We're
No,
selling
I mean,
comfort.
I see it in the emails and the messages and I'm reading all of these, this feedback that we get from the community. And part of it is you've helped me with this. You've helped me learn to do this. I did this amazing thing.
Absolutely.
But then the other half, and I would say like probably half,
Yep.
is you make me feel seen. You make me feel safe. You make me feel comfortable. You feel like a
Yep.
family member.
It's
like,
all I feel.
exactly.
It's all I even the people who are learning something, I feel safe enough to learn.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
feel this way when I watch it, and that's what we're trying to do. So
Yeah.
when people say, "Hey, you don't need this, this, or this, and this," I would say you are right. However, if you are trying to make a feeling,
Yeah.
then you need to be aware of how that feeling is happening from you, right? Like I'm creating a feeling with the lights,
Yep.
the color scheme, the
Mhm.
tools in the background, and all those kind of aspects, right? And I am trying to make sure that people feel safe visually
Right.
so they can feel safe when they hear the words coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why like a lot of your videos lately have almost brought back a lot of that, like cuz I've been following you from the beginning too.
It's been a long time
And I
since
have
we've had this.
noticed that like that it the feel of your videos definitely harkens back to like when you were first starting, and like that feeling of comfort and safety. Because like I knew a lot of the things that you were teaching,
Mm-hmm.
but I loved watching you anyway because of the feeling.
So we haven't had that LED workshop background
Yeah.
since like August,
Yeah.
right? And because you know what, I was moving around doing all this stuff, and this is why I've been so hell bent on making that corner in the studio work, because I knew this is the bread and butter. This is what it is. It's hard to articulate that.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, no, trust me, this is going to work.
This is the most
And
important
the
thing.
first fucking video I do in this studio that has everything I need, the first video goes viral.
Yep.
And then the second video of me sitting in a chair just doing the Menard song goes viral.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's funny that worked, but it's also like that's exactly how that works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also it's not just the environment, it's also how that's shot too. It's like, you know, the hook is what's wrong in your home. So the hook is like the outlet not working. The hook is there's a hole in your wall. The hook is your toilet's not working. You show that before you show me, because now we're trying to show you a problem. And then the second hook, because I think it's a 1-2 punch, is the first punch, something in your house is broken. Second punch is Mercury's a trans handyman. She's, you know, like very different than any handy person you will ever fucking see in your goddamn life, you know? And then the next part is 1, 2, 3, 4, solved, affirmation. And there we go. That format works. And I think that can work for other people too. Like, I think that that's a really easy and understandable format. And my audience has learned that.
Right.
Right. And then you have the Ask Mercury series that's whole different. I don't think the Ask Mercury series I don't think I've ever had a video really go viral. Maybe the cocking video, but that video was so innately different.
They're still consistently really good.
Yeah, they're almost always 100, 200,000 views. And if they're not, they're still really, like, the audience is there. The audience will always rebound those videos. If that video does poorly, in 3 or 4 days, that video is going to rebound, because the audience wants that. The audience wants that comfort of me telling someone it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Or don't you worry, mom, you got this. Or, hey, you know what? You're doing a great job. They want that. Yeah. And also, I want to do those videos. Yeah. You can tell that those are my favorite videos to shoot. You know, the Ask Mercury videos are by far my favorite ones, because I feel like I'm actually doing direct help one-to-one. Yeah. Where the how-to videos, like the snug plug video or the drywall videos or the electrical videos or any of the ones I've done, how to hang something, right? Those can be so innately different.
Oh my God, I already love having them. Both of them.
No, having Basil is ever. Are we already recording? Yep. Okay, good. We'll do a little bit of pre-show warm up.
Yep. Sorry for the chewing. I didn't realize we were recording.
No, that's good. But no, having another employee, having Basil around is great. Having Ray is going to make a huge difference too. I think that, like, as employers, I think you and I have similar methods.
Oh yeah.
Of like, I will always be fine with working with people who are nice and friendly and on time, and just like, I don't know, like Basil and Ray are just always good to go, you know, and they're always so lovely. And if we gotta ever teach them stuff, I'd rather do that than anything. You know what I mean? Like, I think like it's the Green Bay Packers approach to building a company. Do you know what I mean by that?
I have absolutely no idea.
Okay, so the Green Bay Packers are a small market, right? They're the smallest NFL team in the country, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, the town's 100,000 people.
Yeah.
You don't get too many people who come out of Green Bay who become professional football players. You do get one or two, but you don't get many, right? So you're not going to have hometown heroes. You're not going to have people who are like, you know what I want to do? I want to spend my entire career as a professional football player in Green Bay, Wisconsin, right? Like, you know, and the free agency, you just don't get, you always got to pay more for free agents. I mean, Reggie White back in the day was like the first big free agent buy. And that was very rare for you to get a huge free agent buy for Green Bay. So the method historically for the last 20 years really has been about drafting players are recruiting players in the free agency that are like, I hate to say lawyer value, but are not traditionally high value players with a lot of like upside, right? You get either players that are on the downside of their career, or you get players who maybe people have overlooked. We famously had Kurt Warner in our practice team for like a week. We had Mark Bugler. We had a whole bunch of really large names. I just killed that name. But we had a whole bunch of people who have come through here who later on became like Matt Hasselbeck, who were prospects that no one wanted, but we always took chances on people, right? And sometimes they went on to do bigger, better things places. So the what I'm trying to say is that the Green Bay Packers often recruit people who they feel like will put the work in, will do the work, and then they can work up and then train up, right? Where for them, it's much more about that than it is about finding the absolute best and then hoping for the best, and not being able to keep them.
That's what I did when I ran. So I ran a salon in Austin, Texas. We had multiple locations, and I had about 20 employees. And I built a training program for the salon. Like, obviously, I wasn't an esthetician, so I used, the guidance of the owner and our top esthetician, and created a training program because, our theory and my thinking was I would rather hire somebody because they're a great culture fit, because they're a really amazing person, and then teach them how to do a really great job and see the potential in them, because half the time, waxing isn't actually taught in schools. So we would get people who were really, really good at waxing, but then were like not great people, not great, teammates, not great employees. Like, they weren't as kind and compassionate as we wanted them to be. Our culture was very much one of, compassion and empathy. And to us, that was more important. So I was like, I will spend thousands of dollars to train somebody to do a good job if they're the right person, right? Because that was always more important to us. So 100%, that's
a harder thing to do. I think it's a generally harder thing to do. But I think training within is the way to 100%. Go. And to be honest, Basil and Ray, who are actually people we worked with at 5 Star Tees, our weekly burlesque show that we ran for a while. Ray and Basil both came on halfway through this last year, and were just like life-changing, additions to the show. Just re-changed everything from like the attitude of the show and having people that are just like willing to roll with the punches, because a weekly show is going to require patience on a whole new level, because a lot of it can go wrong. People can drop out. Cast members can get sick. There's just so much things that can happen. And not to mention, you got, audience sometimes are not always as polite as you want them to be. And, problems like that. So you have Basil and Ray, who are basically the ones who deal with all those issues. And I don't know. I think it just says a lot about your character if you can make that work.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to just roll with the punches, and mistakes are going to be made, but I'm going to always support people who show me love and compassion in those moments, because that's fucking hard.
It is.
It's hard running a show. And
I always trusted Basil. I didn't work with them in person as much, but obviously we had our weekly meetings and we were always in communication. But I trusted their decisions and, anything that would happen, especially when we have pretty strict COVID rules and things like that.
Oh my God.
Never once doubted their capability.
Yeah. And Basil, is a registered nurse. So we always relied on them for COVID precautions and stuff too. Having them in the shop, I always feel a little safer. Like last night, Maggie, you've seen this. The audience has not seen this yet. But I did a garbage disposal video that I'm very proud of. Did you watch that?
I did.
That was a very clean video.
It looked great.
Really well productioned video. But to get that key stuck in the garbage disposal,
I was wondering about that. I was like, she did that. I know she put that key in there.
I had to so I threw a bunch of stuff in there. and then I just ran the garbage disposal,
Oh,
right?
shit.
So then I put a block of wood on it because it's garbage disposal has no.
Yeah.
This one has no gasket or anything, so there's
Right.
a chance that it could shoot out and be a projectile.
Yeah.
So I put a piece of wood on it, and then I clamped it there, and then I put it
nice.
behind the wall, and then I told Basil, just be in the other room, and then I'll let you know. You'll hear me screaming if there's something really wrong. So we had the first aid kit ready,
Yeah.
and just all these major precautions that would not there's no way anything would go wrong, but on the off chance,
You're always about safety. Though.
yes. I mean, I try to be. Sometimes I forget. The video I did with Bob the Drag Queen recently,
Mm-hmm.
where we're punching a hole through the wall. We should have been wearing safety glasses.
That's true.
Someone wrote in the comment section, someone was just like, Mercury, I'm so scared you're going to lose an eye. Because also at one point, Bob double fisted the rage.
Oh, that's right.
And just like went at it. And he's just like slamming in there. I'm like maybe a foot away
Yeah.
from the rage. And it was pretty fucking funny. I just like took a step back and I'm like, okay, Bob. Like, okay.
Okay, Bob.
Bob was having, after that first hole punch, I could tell that she was having the best time of her fucking life.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
with the garbage disposal, we just made sure that Basil was in another room, and it's just
Mhm.
nice to have a registered nurse, making sure that at least I'm protected to some extent.
Mhm.
We could always be better. But I think Basil won me over at 5-Star Teas like the first week we worked together because I came a little late and they had food for me and they
Aw.
had a drink for me and they just made sure I got something in me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
They're so
Like,
thoughtful.
I'm not good at that. I'm not really good at those like very obvious self-care things when it comes to food and
Mhm.
drinking water and whatever. When I get into show mode or I get into production mode, Maggie knows this. I can
Mhm.
work 10, 12 hours straight and not really think about it. I'll like lose track of stuff.
Yeah.
But with Basil around, it's a lot nicer. We have a little bit more of
Good.
accountability. But last night was an exception. I worked here until midnight last night. About maybe 5 hours after Basil left
Mhm.
because we had a lot to do. We're doing a sponsorship with iFixit, so we had to have the stuff there for that.
Mhm.
We still got to get a video for iFixit sometime soon and stuff like that. So, like, yeah, there's always those, Mondays and Tuesdays are going to be the busiest days.
Yeah.
And then if I can commit to those being 10, 12-hour days, sometimes 14-hour days, I'm fine as long as I get 5, 6-hour days the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I that's how I like to work my schedule. I like to hyper focus because 5 9-hour days or 5 8-hour days just don't work for me.
Right.
They just don't, because in maintenance this is not how it works. You work until a job is done. So for 15 years my mind has always been
Yeah.
you
You're in
work until the
maintenance
job is
mode.
done. So
Yeah.
it's very hard for me to disconnect that. And I do
Mhm.
have some unhealthy working habits. And I work weird ass hours. I say that I'm second shift because I come in like late
Mhm.
and then I work late, but I often work, pretty late. Today was the first one in, I'll be the last one out,
Yeah.
but that's okay. But it's again, because I don't want to be here tomorrow.
Mhm.
I'll be here tomorrow, to be honest, though. I'll be here a little bit tomorrow. I won't really be here too much Thursday. I'll be here a little bit. And Friday, I have something going on Friday, but I really don't want to be here on
Mhm.
Friday and Saturday and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I've been actually taking Friday afternoons off because you were in the show and I
Yeah.
wanted to be available in the evening if anything came up and you needed me. So I pick Izzy up at like 3:30 on Fridays. So like my mom was like, "Is Mercury gonna be okay with you taking Friday afternoons off?" I'm like, "What?" Like,
Yeah, this
she
is
doesn't fucking care.
that's not really how our business relationship works.
No.
Because the way that our business relationship works is that like the way that our business works is we work when we work
Yeah.
and the job gets done. I
Mhm.
don't really keep track of my hours. I know you don't really keep track of your hours. We just kind of
Yeah.
work, And if I'm not in a good place, I'm not in a good place. And I
Mhm.
don't expect anybody to work a specific set of hours all the time.
Yeah.
Just make sure the work gets done. And if you need to take, I'm not going to punish you for it and pay you less. I don't know.
Well, that's what I set up with Ray and Basil too. I was like, whatever, unlimited sick days, because like, either get the job done or delegate it to somebody
Yeah.
else. But
Or
like,
there is a max.
you don't
though.
have a set schedule.
Yeah. I don't want anyone working above how much I work. right?
Exactly.
And I think that's where the tone is set
Yeah.
to some extent, where I would prefer if everyone just would do 40 hours a week. I don't know if we're always there yet.
Yeah.
I definitely know that there's no way I can just work 40 hours a week right now. We have
Mhm.
so much going, I know everyone else is working 20. I don't know what you think you work.
I mean, I have childcare 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, but like sometimes, like I was
Yeah.
working this morning while Izzy was watching cartoons, and last night I
Yeah,
was
that's the
like had my
thing.
laptop out when dinner was cooking in the oven.
I
Like
I
oh
try my
whatever. I don't
best
really.
when I'm thinking about a job, like when I'm thinking about a task or I'm thinking about a video, like an idea. I try my
Mhm.
best to count that time, but it's hard
Yeah.
because that time is not fixed. You could be
Mhm.
in the car driving to hang out with friends, and then all of a sudden you spend 30
Yeah.
straight minutes thinking about the job, and that's the thing. You should be counting that. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
like I don't know, a lot of this is creativity, and you just don't get to put a time limit on creativity, and
Yeah.
you can't always prevent when that's going to happen.
Well, and like my job schedule quote finger quotes whatever like I haven't really had a schedule in my job since I was a teacher, which was like I think I quit teaching in 2015, 2014. So I'm kind of just used to working like whenever I can, and like taking appointments when I need to, or taking time for myself when I need to, and like sometimes opening up my laptop in weird hours. Like I can't always be away from home on weird hours because with the little guy, but like I'm similar to you in that like I just do the job when it needs to be done, and try to make sure to take time for myself
Yeah.
in the
I
process.
I try to put a max in,
Yeah.
right? I try. Some weeks are going to be easier than not. But like
Mm-hmm.
to me the 60-hour max thing is really important to me right now
Yeah.
because I don't think you get much work done after 60. As someone
Oh
who
God, no.
I worked more than that at one point. There
Yeah.
was a hot moment where in order to pay the bills I had to make massive overtime to be able to pay any bills.
Mm.
I had so many payday loans in my back pocket. I don't think I've ever talked to you about this. But I had so many payday loans. I owed about $28,000 in payday loans in
Oh
about
wow.
a year and a half, 2 year period. And there was 1 month where my entire paycheck went to payday loans. And that interest rate is like 386%. It was like a high.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no choice at the time. No credit card was going to work with me. No, my credit
Yeah.
score was like 450. And I couldn't even pay the bills. So 1 month I just decided to like, in order to do the show I wanted to do, in order to make things happen, I needed to just not worry about next month.
Yeah.
And when you're queer and you're trans and you're not really sure if you're gonna live week to week to month, and that's how my mindset was, 5, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not really worried about next month. You really just want to worry about now.
Mm-hmm.
And if next month is harder, well, maybe you don't make it the next month after that. That's how like mental illness affects you.
Yeah.
So I made that call to do all those payday loans, and I think I ended up getting like about $6,000, but ended up paying about 28,000, 30,000.
Shit.
Yeah,
On a
because
$6,000 loan?
yeah, but it wasn't one though.
Oh
It
sure.
was $1,000 loan, $2,000
Oh sure.
loan, $3,000 loan, $500 loan, and I went all of them. I went to every single one I could get, and that's how I paid
Yeah.
rent 1 month, and that's how I took care of it for all the while. But like each loan is 380% 6 cents or more depending on who
Mm-hmm.
you go to. To this day, I get mail from payday loan companies
Mm-hmm.
um asking me for money or being like, "Hey, look at this, a lower interest rate, 200%."
Oh gee.
And it's like, "Oh, yay, wow, that's so great," But when you look at it and
Yeah.
almost 400%,
That's why that's why
it
experts say it's expensive to be poor.
And but they also think I really do feel like they target mental illness. I
Yeah.
really do. I mean, there's a reason why payday loan places are almost always in places where the economy's a little lower, right? Houses are a little bit cheaper. There's a lot more marginalized people.
Yep.
Fucking hate it. They prey on people,
They do.
and it is so disgusting. And in Wisconsin, they roll back a shit ton of those payday loan laws. They used to have
Really?
more. You used to not be able to do this shit.
Damn.
But in the last 7 or 8 years, they got rolled back hard. And now it's like fucking candy. You take it and it feels great, and then they come back so hard. They can
Yeah.
get away with like doing these things where there's no APR for the first 2 months. You know? and then you feel like, okay, I'll take another one out, and then you extend it. And
Mm-hmm.
boy, I had those payday loans for 3 to 4 years,
Wow.
and it wrecked my paycheck. But I was working massive overtime. I was like to the point where I was working like 2 weeks in 1 week in order to pay rent,
Mm-hmm.
because only way I paid rent was if I had overtime. I remember one of my paychecks was double what I would usually get paid, and it was just barely enough to cover me for the month.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. The things you learn by making bad decisions. And also remember, I had no support system at this
Yeah.
time. I didn't have
Yeah.
any friends at this point, besides Matthew and John Danger Rowe. And that was it. That's all we got. There was like, and none of us were going to be able to help each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, like we're all in the middle of an ocean with a lifeguard, with a life preserver, just hoping no shark comes. And you're just, some of us are on the edge of drowning a little bit more than others.
Yeah.
But how the others going to help you? It's hard. Once again, the stories of struggling with debt and all that stuff. But anyways, that's beside the point. I always try to think about that as an employer, though.
Yeah.
I think that like what makes a good employer is someone who remembers what it was like to be an employee.
Oh, for sure.
And I really never want to put any of our people in that place. I
Mm-hmm.
always want to make sure they're taken care of. And I also don't want to get so big that I don't know everyone's life. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to get
Yeah.
to 30, 40, 50 people. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to get that big. I would prefer if we stayed underneath double digits for the entirety of Mercury Stardust Media. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
if we get to the point where we're killing it and making a lot of money, that I just want us all to take home money and just be okay with being as big as we are and
Right.
not have to get
Yeah.
bigger. Because like I see someone who worked for our company who was 1,000 people.
Oh, shit.
Right? Yeah, because ETC, Electronic Theater Controls, was 1,000 people. And there was this guy named Fred Foster. He started the company. He has a legendary story about like how he was at a Christmas party at UW-Madison as an undergrad, and he was there, and a lighting professor for the theatrical department had this really old, archaic light board.
Mm-hmm.
And Fred, who was like a really smart guy with his brother, said, no, I can make a better light board. I can make a better light board, and I will make it, and I'll bring it here, and then I'll make you buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy was like, yeah, sure, kid. Fred was like 20 years old.
Yeah.
For the next year of his life, he got so fucking mad about this. He got so insulted that this guy didn't think he could do it. He built a light board.
Hmm.
And for the entire year, I kid you not, Maggie, he redesigned the circuit boards and redesigned all this stuff. He made a light board. It was barely done in time. Right? He came in there, his shirt was untucked, and he looked like a mess, and he walks in like a mad scientist with his brother, and he's like, hey, motherfucker, here is this light board, and he did it, and the guy
Wow.
bought it from him there. And he's like, okay, I'll tell my friends. And then that started this small company where the word of
Mhm.
mouth got out, and this light board was so efficient and so much better for people
Yeah.
in the world, because before that, light boards were not, computerized. Light boards were very much archaic machinery that was old motors and gears and
Yeah.
gadgets.
Yeah.
Not like, a press a button and a job gets done. So
Wow.
much easier. So this is 1976. So the next couple of years go by, and he starts building, this is like the, very much like Apple. Like he's like
Mhm.
starting in his garage and his parents, and he gets this big deal from Disney. And he was pitching it. No one else wanted to work with him because they described him as someone who would rather be sailing than doing his job. They described like he's so joyful. He doesn't seem
Mm.
like he actually wants to do this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he famously got an executive to come to a hotel room at this big conference, and the night before he gave up. He was ready to go home. He was like, "No one wants this fucking thing." He spent the last 4 years of his life trying to sell this board, and not one single company other than small colleges want to work with him.
Mhm.
So it's not going to happen, right? So, but he gets this guy from Disney at like 10 o'clock in the morning off of a buffet line in a hotel. And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever, kid. If it's as good as you say it is, I'll give it a look. And then Fred looked at his brother and said, go and clean up the room, because he had underwear everywhere and it looked like a fucking mess. And they were drinking all night. So
Yeah.
everything just looked like a shithole. So Fred and this fucking guy walk in, and the room just looks like it's trashed, And there was underwear that was hanging on the light board. And like Fred like flicks it off, and he's like, yeah, this is the light board. He sells it. He sells it, and that one deal with Disney basically revolutionized the lighting industry.
Wow.
And Disney to this day is the biggest purchaser of electronic theater controls, lighting equipment. I think so. Might not be anymore actually. Now that I said that, there may be some churches that have a lot more. But like Disney at one point kind of put ETC on the map.
Wow.
Because they took that light board and they put it in every single theme park.
Wow.
Yes.
Cool.
And that it made the theme park run in a different way, and it changed everything. So I think about that and how Fred was this really kind guy. His mentality was, no one has an assigned parking space. Everybody parks where they park. No one gets in a parking space, right? And I love those kind of things, but something has always rubbed me the wrong way, where it's like, okay, so no one has assigned parking, but not everyone gets paid the same.
Yeah.
And not everyone is really treated the same. And there's a divide between the office folk and the manufacturing folk.
And it's hard to control that when you get so big.
Yes, it is. You could be the nicest person in the fucking world, but you are running a machine and cogs and pieces. And you could be a legendary guy who was one of he bought me lunch multiple times. This is a guy who when he was in a line and he saw a bunch of people behind him, he would always pay for everyone in the line all the time. And he was always kind.
But you didn't get a living wage.
But we never got a living wage. Honestly, I got paid the lowest amount as a maintenance technician in the county of Dane County when we started. At one point, a bunch of people brought it up to their attention that, hey, there's some departments in this company that are below a living wage. I was getting paid $14.25 in 2012, 2011, and that was $5 below the average rate of a maintenance technician anywhere else. Right? It was bad. But they had the same rates for years because they went through a pay freeze in 2002, and they just never changed because they lost so many people at that time. So they were afraid to give raises. But they got to a point where it's like, come on, like I get why you're afraid of it, but like you got people, you're not retaining people anymore. People are leaving by the fucking dozens because this is not a way to live, And the backbone of every company is always the people who are doing jobs you don't want to do. Backbone of you might have some amazing R&D people and some amazing smart people who are making a big, high executive decisions. But let's be honest, the people who make a company really, truly run are the people who are working behind the scenes and doing jobs a lot of people don't want to do. From the manufacturers who work all day, 10-hour shifts, and only allowed so many bathroom breaks, and then get yelled at if they talk too long. You know what I mean? Like, but then the office folks, they get to have, Star Wars themed games, and they get to have, dartboards everywhere, and they get to have hacky sack. And I get it, how great that is. But you're not seeing that manufacturing, you're not seeing the backbone of the company and how they're treated. And almost always the most diversity of the whole company was manufacturing.
Yeah.
So like you see that, it's very hard not to like see and go, yeah, even the best people are still running companies are within a capitalist system that is often undermining people's integrity.
Well, the more people you bring in, the less control you have over the culture of your company because you're relying on other people to, to perpetuate that culture down the line. And, if you've got 1,000 people, they probably had 100 managers or whatever, 200. You can't control or be one-on-one with all those people enough to make sure that you're on the same, level with them. So I 100% agree because I think that we have similar values as far as how we want the business to be run, where everybody's getting paid the same and there's profit sharing and, that there's transparency in the finances and, all of these different things. And that's just, it's hard to continue keeping the culture and to me, what's so important is the empathy and the compassion in everything that we do. If you've got too many people below you, that you're relying on to feel the same way as you.
Fred, 100%. Fred was a one of a kind person, right? I'll tell you one story about Fred, and then we'll start the podcast, right? But Fred was the kind of guy where we had about 386 different light fixtures, all electronic theater controls lights that were hanging up in the the ceiling of like 36 to 40 feet up in the air, and we had this beautiful like town like theatrical like flats in the building. It all looked like a theatrical set piece because we're a theatrical company. So when you walked in, Times Square is right there. Just this beautiful, and the whole space was made to look like the Nighthawk painting, the famous Nighthawk painting, and the use of light was very similar. It was just this beautiful space. Someday, Maggie, I want to take you there. But it was my job, out of everyone in the whole company, my job to maintain and to take care of all the theatrical lighting equipment. And it was my favorite thing in the world. I was a maintenance technician, but I got to work with lights and hang all these lights. But one night, it was like 3 or 2 in the afternoon. This was not early in the day, right? My shift gets done like at 7. Fred comes in me, and he always wears Booker and stocks, and he wore, button down. He always looked like he probably wasn't a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, but he was.
Yeah.
And he came up to me in Birkenstocks, and he said, "Hey, Mercury, I would really like if you were able to stay tonight to refocus all the lights. We're having a big meeting this week, and I just wanted to look really good. And some of these lights are kind of out of focus." And I said, "Okay, cool." And then Fred was just like, "Okay, well, what time works best for you?" And I said, if I leave now and I can kind of maintain the rest of my week, that'd be nice. Then I can work like 5-6 hours for you, and I can work between like 11 and whatever if you really want me to. And Fred was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll see you at 11." And I said, "Cool." And then I looked at him and I said, "Wait a minute, what do you mean you'll see me at 11?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not going to ask you to do this and not do it myself." And I will never forget that. Like, that changed my life.
Yeah.
A CEO, he had no reason to be in a lift with me. He was in a lift going 40 feet up in the air.
Oh, wow.
And Fred refused to wear safety toes and a hard hat. We were going up, and I said, "Fred, I'm legally not allowed to let you get into the goddamn lift without the fucking hard-toed shoes and a hard hat." And Fred looked me in my eye, Maggie, and said, "What am I going to do, sue my own company?" And like, you can't argue with the guy.
Yes, boss.
You can't argue with the guy. So yeah, I mean, that was Fred, and I learned a lot from him. And then unfortunately he died of cancer about a year before COVID. And it was devastating. And then the company shifted and changed a lot. And then I left right after, like 6 months of COVID, and I was gone. And I think for me, the biggest lesson I took from him was being kind and compassionate, and being a leader who could inspire people to do great things. Because I think he did. I don't think he always saw that not everyone felt the same way.
Yeah.
But I do think he ultimately tried his best, and I do think that matters a lot.
Yeah.
But I do think the max is 1,000 people. I don't think you can do that with 10, 15, 20,000 people. I just don't. I just don't. I think you get a lot more people like Elon Musk. I just don't. Who have this whole fantasy story made about you, but there's no way you're actually able to make people feel seen and loved. There's just no fucking way.
Yeah.
Because at some point, everyone is looking out for themselves because they're old cogs in the machine, and they know that someone above them is a cog in the machine, and someone above them is a cog in the machine, and all the pieces don't want to be in their current spot. They all want to be in a different spot. But not all of them are designed for the same function. And that's what happens at big companies. Is gears try to change places with other gears, or different gears leave that system, and it doesn't work the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I just don't get it. I will never understand large companies and why everyone gets paid at a different wage. I just won't. If you're someone who runs a business, I really would encourage you to try to have a much more communist approach to running your business.
Oh, yeah.
I would really encourage it to. I'm not saying it's the best route to go, but I will say very strongly, there are different ways to run your business, and you don't have to be a capitalist, and you don't have to be someone who thinks about money before anything else. You just don't. You don't have to also make huge sales to make it all work. You just don't. There's ways to make it work in the Monterey era.
Well, and I think, part of like not owning a business and not being, so heavily capitalist about it is that you're not always, the thing about capitalism, it's always striving for more, bigger, right? And like you said, for us, there's going to come a point where we're like going to look around and we're going to say, no, this is good.
Yep.
And that is in and of itself anti-capitalist because we're not going to like continue to grow past a point where we're comfortable just to make the money, you know? Like that's
there's this mentality I think where if you don't keep growing that you actually die.
no, that's not
You know? And I also think if you work within the stock market and you're a public company maybe, you got a bunch of people who will like have a share of the company and they want to make sure that their shares keep going up for an
the
investment.
investors.
I fucking hate that shit. I hate it. And every single person I meet in business is someone who's like, they just reek of decisions that hurt others. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, oh God, we were at this really big conference at one point that I think Maggie knows what I'm talking about. And we were there, and every single person who I shook their hand, I just felt like I shook a hand with somebody who like, who was making a decision to make more money than 8 other people of the company.
Yeah.
You know, and it just irks the shit out of me. I don't get it. And here's the thing. You don't need to make the exact same, but you got to, I want you to think about yourself very clearly. If you got someone cleaning your toilets and they're not making a wage that you would clean the toilet for, rethink that pay, my friend.
Well, especially like bare minimum, everybody should be making a livable wage for their area.
Yeah.
Bare minimum.
Yeah. And then people are going to be like, well, you got to make sure the profits are in and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's not my fucking job. That's your job. You know what I mean? And like, that's how I feel, right? Like, you and I are the ones who are worried about that. It's not their job to work for a wage that they can't get by for a company that is barely getting by. You find a way to make it work. Yeah. And here's the thing. If you are someone who's making 4 to 5 times more than the person on the lowest end of your company, then I don't know. There's probably ways you can make it work.
Oh my God. So many CEOs out there making like 300 times, 500 times. Because there used to be a law about that the highest paid person in your company could only make so much more than the lowest paid person in your company.
And like a lot of things.
And they got rid of it.
Yeah, and who got rid of it?
Who?
Ronald Reagan. God damn it. Okay, on that note, let's start the podcast. And for those who are listening, it's ending the podcast for you, starting it for us. Okay, bye-bye! The theme song for the Handyman Hotline was written by Rhodey Walker. The questions were picked out by our production assistants, Ray and Basil. And the sound was engineered by Matthew Allen Hagg. Thank you for listening. See you next time. If you enjoyed this episode of the Handyman Hotline, you can listen to an even longer version by supporting us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon, $10 or more, you'll be able to get an extra long 30 to 45 minute section every single week. Isn't that amazing? More of me and Maggie. Wow! So thank you so much for all those who already support us, and you too can support us and listen to more on our Patreon. Thank you. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us keep the pirate ship alive by supporting our sponsors, the wonderful iFixit. They fight for your right to repair and makes really cool tools in the process. If you need to fix your phone, laptop, or even a vacuum, iFixit has thousands of parts, tools, and free guides to make your life a little bit easier.
So grab your head